Hello students, welcome back to our channel, and here we are again with a new video. Today we are going to study the English of class 9th, and the book is Moments, and the chapter which we are going to study is chapter number 4, that is In the Kingdom of Fools. So basically this story was written in Kannada. As you can see, the last of the story, and written by A.K. Ramanujan, and later on it was translated into English. So this story, as the name says, in the kingdom of fools. So there is a kingdom in which all the people who are living are fools. So this story is about that only. So what this story is all about, we will find out. We will read paragraphs and we will understand the meaning of all those paragraphs. So let's get started. So at the beginning of the story, you can see there is a small description given, and it is said, it is believed that fools are so dangerous that only very wise people can manage them. Who are the fools in the story? What happens to them? So who are actually the fools? We will find out in the story. So now we are going to read the paragraph. In the kingdom of fools, both the kings and the minister were idiots. They didn't want to run things like other kings, so they decided to change night into day and day into night. They ordered that everyone should be awake at night till their fields and run their businesses only after dark and go to bed as soon as the sun came up. Anyone who disobeyed would be punished with death. The people did as they were told for fear of death. The king and the minister were delighted at the success of their project. One day a guru and his disciple arrived in the city. It was a beautiful city. It was broad daylight, but there was no one about. Everyone was asleep. Not a mouse stirring. Even the cattle had been taught to sleep by day. The two strangers were amazed by what they saw around them and wandered around town till evening, when suddenly the whole town woke up and went about its nightly business. So the kingdom was full of foolish people, and as well as the kings and the ministers, they were also fools. So they want to do things differently. So they ordered that in our kingdom, the king ordered in my kingdom, days will be considered as nights and nights will be considered as days. So everyone will sleep in daytime and everyone will do their business or do any kind of activity in night time. So one day a guru and his disciple, they came to the city. It was beautiful, but strangely nobody was there. The whole city was sleeping. Even the cattle and the animals, they were taught to sleep in daytime. So they did not find anyone in the daytime, but as soon as the sun started setting, they saw rush and crowd around the village, around the kingdom. Everyone else was going to work in the evening. Till night they used to do the work, and when the sun rise, they used to sleep again. So the king and the disciple, they were very surprised to see this, because it was totally different, and this type of thing was not practiced in any other region. And also king ordered that anyone who disobeys my order will be punished to death. So everyone was in fear and they used to obey the king's order. The two men were hungry. Now that the shops were open, they went to buy some groceries. To their astonishment, they found that everything cost the same. A single dudu. Dudu is a kind of currency. Whether they bought the measure of rice or a bunch of bananas, it cost a dudu. Dudu is the name of currency in that kingdom. The guru and his disciple were delighted. They had never heard of anything like this. They could buy all the food they wanted for a rupee. That means for a dudu. So in the evening they were hungry. So the shops are open in the evening. So they went in the shops and they were very surprised to see this. whatever you buy will cost you 1 guru, that means 1 rupee in that region. Whether you buy a piece of banana or a bunch of bananas, a handful of rice or a kg of rice or a quintal of rice, it will cost only 1 guru, that means 1 rupee. So they were very delighted, they were very happy to see this. When they had cooked and eaten, the Guru realized that this was a kingdom of fools and it would not be a good idea for them to stay there. This is no place for us, let's go, he said to his disciple. But the disciple didn't want to leave the place. Everything was cheap here. All he wanted was good, cheap food. The Guru said, they are all fools. This won't last very long and you can't tell what they'll do to you next. So the Guru advised that this is the kingdom full of foolish people. So staying here is not wise decision. So let's leave this place. But the disciple was greedy person. Thought that everything here is very cheap. Whatever I want, I can buy it in a single rupee. So the disciple, he did not want to leave the place. But the disciple wouldn't listen to the Guru's wisdom. He wanted to stay. The Guru finally gave up and said, do what you want. I am going, and left. The disciple stayed on, ate his fill every day. Bananas and ghee and rice and wheat, and grew fat like a street side sacred bull. So finally the Guru left the place and the disciple stayed there only. And whatever he wanted he ate. Whether it is rice, it is ghee, it is banana, it is fruits or anything else. He ate as much as he wanted and very soon he grew fat. One bright day a thief broke into a rich merchant's house. He had made a hole in the wall and sneaked in. And as he was carrying out his loot, the wall of the old house collapsed on his head and killed him on the spot. His brother ran to the king and complained, Your Highness, when my brother was pursuing his ancient trade, a wall fell on him and killed him. This merchant is to blame. He should have built a good, strong wall. You must punish the wrongdoer and compensate the family for this justice. So one day a thief was going to steal into a rich merchant's house. He made a hole under the wall and he robbed everything in the house. But when he was returning, the wall fell on him and he died right there. The brother of that thief was blaming the merchant. He said to the king that, Your Highness, it is the fault of the merchant that he built a weak wall that did not survive and it fell onto my brother. Although he was doing nothing wrong, he was just carrying out the same profession he used to do for years and years. So it is the fault of the merchant who did not build a strong wall. So the merchant is to be punished for the death of my brother. The king said, Justice will be done. Don't worry, and at once summoned the owner of the house. So he said, Yes, I will do the justice. Call the merchant, I will punish him. When the merchant arrived, the king questioned him, What's your name? Such and such, Your Highness. Were you at home when the dead man burned your house? Yes, my lord. He broke in and the wall was weak. It fell on him. The accused pleads guilty. Your wall killed this man's brother. You have murdered a man. We have to punish you. Lord, said the helpless merchant, I didn't put up the wall. It's really the fault of the man who built the wall. He didn't build it right. You should punish him. So the merchant was called in the court, in the royal court, the king's court, and the king questioned him, were you inside the house when the dead person who was trying to rob you? He said, yes, my lord, I was there. So the king said that it is your fault, you did not bring the strong wall. And the person died because of the wall which you built, so you are going to be punished. He said that, my lord, this is not my fault. This is the fault of the builder who built this wall. So now the king questioned him, who built this wall? So the merchant said, my lord, this wall was built in my father's time. I know the man, he is an old man now, he lives nearby. The king sent out messengers to bring in the bricklayer who had built the wall. They brought him tied hand and food. You there, did you build this man's wall in his father's time? Yes, my lord, I did. What kind of a wall is this that you built? It has fallen on a poor man and killed him. You have murdered him. We have to punish you by death. So now, as the merchant said, the king called the builder, and he came in the court, and the courtiers, they tied his hand and foot. And the king questioned him, did you build this wall? He said, yes, I did. So the king further said, you built a big wall and the person died. So basically you murdered a person and you are going to be punished by death. Before the king could order the execution, the poor bricklayer pleaded, please listen to me before you give your orders. It's true that I built this wall and it was not good. But that was because my mind was not on it. I remember very well a dancing girl who was going up and down that street all day with her anklets jingling. And I couldn't keep my eyes on my mind on the wall I was building. You must get the dancing girl, I know where she lives. So now, the bricklayer, the builder said that, please, my lord, listen to me before you proceed with your order. It was not my fault. The day on which I was building this wall, my mind and my hand, they were not working. My attention was drawn towards a girl who was walking left and right, and her jewelry kind of anklet that is worn on leg. It made a beautiful sound, so I was attracted towards the sound. So I was not paying attention on this work. So basically this is the fault of that girl, the dancing girl. So I know where she lives. She is the real culprit. She should be punished. You're right, the case deepens. We must look into it. It is not easy to judge such complicated cases. Let's get the dancer wherever she is. The dancing girl, now an old woman, came trembling to the court. Did you walk up and down that street many years ago while this poor man was building a wall? Did you see him? Yes, my lord, I remember it very well. So you did walk up and down with your anklets jingling. You were young and you distracted him. So he built a bad wall. It has fallen on a poor burglar and killed him. You have killed an innocent man. You'll have to be punished. So now the dancing girl, she was called, and the king questioned him. She replied, yes, my lord, I was there. So the king now said that you are the real culprit. Because of you, he built a weak wall, and in the wall fell on an innocent people. So students, here I would like to highlight the word the king used, innocent man. Although he was not at all innocent, he was going to rob a man's house. So basically he is the culprit. But since this is the kingdom of foolish people, foolish king and foolish minister and everyone else. So they were blaming everyone else except the real culprit, who was the thief. She thought for a minute and said, my lord, wait. I know. Now I was walking up and down that street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was lazy, scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said he would get it now and he would give it then. And so on. All day he made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times. That was when this bricklayer saw me. It's not my fault, my lord. It's the damned goldsmith's fault. So now, the lady said, I was not walking up and down without any reason. There is a reason behind it. I had ordered some jewelry to be made by a goldsmith, and he was not doing it on time. He was calling me every now and then, so I was walking through his shops all the time. So that's the time when this builder's attraction drawn towards me. So it is basically the fault of the goldsmith. It's not my fault. Poor thing, she is absolutely right, thought the king. Weighing the evidence, you have got the real culprit at last. Get the goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once. The king's bailiffs searched for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner of his shop. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. Now, the courtiers, they have gone to search the goldsmith, and he was hiding in his shop. So, but here this interesting point comes. He has another story to tell. What's the story? Let's find out. So now he is in the court, the royal court. My lord, he said, I am a poor goldsmith. It's true, I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I couldn't finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's order. They had a wedding coming and they wouldn't wait. You know how impatient rich men are. So now he made the excuse that it's not my fault. Actually, there was a rich merchant, and he was going to have kind of wedding in his house. So he was very impatient. He wanted the jewelry very soon. That is the reason I made the delay to this dancing girl's jewelry. Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry? Made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him. Can you name him? So now the question arises. The king says, who is this merchant who did not let you finish this dancing girl's jewelry on time? Who distracted further the builder, and the builder made a poor wall, and the wall killed a innocent man. So the king ordered to tell the name of that merchant. The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. So now the story revolving all across the way finally came to the merchant himself. Now justice had come full circle. Though the king back to the merchant when he was rudely summoned back to the court, he arrived crying, "It wasn't me, but my father got the jewelry. He's dead, I'm innocent." So now finally the merchant was in the court. So after having a lot of discussion, the king decided the real culprit is the merchant. So he was called in the court, and the merchant started crying in the court that said, "My lord, it's not my fault. Actually my father ordered the jewelry and now he's dead, I'm innocent." But the king consulted his minister and ruled decisively. "It's true your father is true murderer, he is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You have inherited everything from that criminal father of yours, his riches as well as his sins. And yet once, even when I first set eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime, you must die." So finally the king said that if you can inherit all the property and all the belongings of your father after his death, so you should also inherit the sins and all the bad deeds which is done by your father. So you are the culprit now, although your father built this wall, but since you have had all the property after his death, so you will have his sin also, his bad deeds also. So you are going to die. And he ordered a new stake to be made ready for the execution. As the servants sharpened the stake and got it ready for the final impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed on the stake. He appealed to the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. So now stake is a kind of tool upon which the culprit is placed and finally is executed for death. But it was not accommodating the merchant because he was very thin and the space was for a big fat person. So all the people, they were worried because the merchant was actually not getting fit into that stake. So now what happens next? "What shall we do?" he said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do is to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. So the conclusion finally reached that we should not execute this person, the merchant. Instead of him, we should find a person who is fat and who can accommodate, who can fit in the stake, despite of the reality whether he is culprit or he is innocent. If he is accommodating in that stake, he will die. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit in the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months of bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. So finally the servants were sent to all across the city to find a person who can accommodate in that stake, and they found a person who was none other than the disciple himself, who was very fat because he ate a lot of things like wheat, rice, ghee, bananas and all other things. So they found him only, that disciple who has grown very fat. What have I done wrong? I'm innocent. I am a sannyasi, he cried. The man, be true. But it's the royal decree that means order, that we should find a man fat enough to feed the state. They said and carried him to the place of execution. He remembered his wise guru's words. This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. While he was waiting for death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. The guru saw everything in a vision. He had magic powers. He could see far, and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. He arrived at once to save his disciple, who had got himself into such a scrape through love of food. So finally he was carried to the place, to the execution place, and he was going to die. Now the disciple remembered his guru's words that once he said, this city, this kingdom is full of foolish people. What is going to happen next you really don't know. So he was praying from inside to his guru, please save me. And the guru has such magical powers and far vision. He could see the past, he could see the present, he could see the future also. So he heard the voice of his disciple and he appeared right there to save his disciple. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in a whisper. Then he went to the king and addressed him. O wisest of king, who is greater, the guru or disciple? Of course the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask? Then put me to the stake first, put my disciple to death after me. So the guru appeared there and he said, first of all he scolded his disciple and he said something, he whispered something into his ears, the disciple's ears. And he went to the king and asked, oh my lord, you are the wisest king, you are the bravest king. Please tell me one thing, who is the greatest, the guru or the disciple? So the king said, of course the guru is greatest. So he said that I am requesting you, please let me die first, and when I die, let my disciple die after me. When the disciple heard this, he understood and began to clamor, me first, you brought me here first, put me to death first, not him. And they have got an idea, the plan in their mind, and they were playing with the king. So now the disciple said, no, I will die first, and when I will die, after me you will die. The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. That means who should die first. They were quarreling with each other. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the guru, why do you want to die? We choose him because we needed a fat man for the state. You shouldn't ask me such question. Put me to death first, replied the guru. Now the king was puzzled that what is the reason that both of them want to die first? Who wants to die? So he questioned the guru, what is the reason? Tell me. The guru said, no, don't waste time, don't do any delay, just put me to death first. Why? There is some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand. The king said, you must make me understand, then only I will let you die. Will you promise to put me death if I tell you? Asked the guru. The king gave him his solemn word. The guru took him aside out of the servant's earshot and whispered to him, do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us? We have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. The stake is the stake of God of justice, of the God of justice. It's new, it has never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country, and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Put us to death. Me first, remember? So the guru said, I will tell you, but first you need to make a promise that if I tell you the mystery, you will put me to death first. The king agreed and gave his promise. So now the guru took him aside out of the servants, and in alone he said that I have been all across the world. I have never seen this kind of kingdom anywhere. And this stake, it is a seat of justice of God, and whoever dies here first will be reborn, will be reincarnated as the king of this kingdom, and whoever dies the second time, he will be the minister as a reincarnated form when he reborns. Now you keep your word and put me to death first. The king was now thrown into deep thought. He didn't want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time, so he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his minister. It is not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves and we will be reborn as king and minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. So he told the executioners, we'll send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first, then do the same to the second man. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. So now the king went to his minister and said all the things, and he said, they are the holy man and they don't lie. They said this thing and I believe they are true. These things are right. So the minister also agreed, and the king and minister decided altogether that the king said, I will die first and after me you will die. So for the second time, if we reborn, we will be king and ministers again. So the execution was postponed for that day, and the king ordered his servants that next day I will send two people. The first one you will put to death him first, and the second man then you will put to him after. You will put to death him. You will put to him death after second. And don't make any mistake. That night the king and his minister went secretly to the prison, released the guru and the disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. So that night, secretly they released the guru and the disciple, and they wore the attire of the guru and disciple. They covered the face, and first the king went, and then after him the minister went, and finally they are executed. They are dead. When the bodies were taken down to be thrown to the crows and vultures, the people panicked. They saw before them the dead bodies of the king and the minister. The city was in confusion. All night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. We people need a king and a minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. It didn't take many arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the guru. Finally, in the morning, when the dead body was thrown to the vulture and crows, the whole city was panicked to see that it was the body of the king and the minister. Now, the question is, who will be the minister and who will be the king? Because the kingdom needs a king all the time. And if there is no king, no minister, it will be attacked by the enemies. So everyone was having a discussion, arguments. Suddenly some people suggested that the guru and disciple would be the next king and minister. So they went to the guru and disciple, and they were about to leave the city secretly. So they told their proposal. In no time, the disciple agreed, because it was a luxurious life to be the minister of that kingdom. But the guru said, no, I don't want to be here. So it took a long discussion, a lot of time. Finally, the guru also agreed to be the king. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly minister on the condition that they could change all the old laws. So finally, they gave their affirmation, but they said that all the other old rules and laws, they will be changed. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and you could get nothing for a to do. It became like any other place. So they changed each and everything which was previously said by the king, and the days were days again and the nights were nights again, and finally everything has got a fair price. So finally you cannot get everything in one rupee, that means 1 rupee. So it was an interesting story named In the Kingdom of Fools, which was written by A.K. Ramanujan. Actually, A.K. Ramanujan has a very fantastic kind of writer. He wrote many things in Kannada, and finally it got translated into English, and lots of interesting stories are written by A.K. Ramanujan. So this was the story. I hope you understood. I hope you enjoyed the story. Still, if you have any kind of doubt or question, you can write that in the comment box. And don't forget to subscribe our channel, like our videos and share our videos. We'll be back again with lots of videos like this. Till then, goodbye. See you again and stay tuned.